We back again. We are back once again. Here we are, the NESTT Network,
Is
back
it Sunday
again.
already?
What's up? Yeah.
You know, is it
Already.
Sunday already? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Because this is
You
gonna be
come
a good
around fast.
conversation today.
It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be a
Mm.
good conversation today.
It's gonna be good. But what are we talking about here today, Derek?
Man, we're talking about the dangers of shortcutting the journey to your calling. Can you take short?
Mm.
Is there a good way to take a shortcut, or the bad ways to take a shortcut?
Right. There's a
So you
danger
just
to it.
so you always go the long way. I don't know. We're gonna get
Mm.
into it though.
I love that. I love that. Who wants to kick us off with a warm up question? Because we have an article that we read this week, and I'll have Derek kind of do a little summary of it. But we're going to be talking through a few questions that we have. One, what is the best way in terms of your calling? Can you take the shortcuts? What are the strategies? What are the tools? These are some of the things I've been thinking about throughout the week when it comes to the preparation for the next step. So it'll be interesting. I know that I have some major thoughts on on how you go about that. Just a little bit, just a little bit. But yeah, let's just open up the floor and yeah, let's get to it. Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah. So if
Man,
we were going to
so
pose a
go
question, I
for it.
think it
Go
would
for
be
it.
a combination of what you just framed out. Ashley, um, is there a strategic way to take a shortcut within your calling? Is there a strategic way to take a shortcut within your calling? And then what does that look like? What does that mean? Like what is the shortcut that you're taking? Does that shortcut consist of condensing the amount of time it would take for you to do the work necessary to
Yeah.
complete your calling? Is the shortcut, taking resources and information that someone else has already established
Mhm.
and using that to your benefit within your calling? What
Yes.
is the strategic way, or is there a strategic way to shortcut your calling?
Yeah. I like that a lot. I think that a couple of things. I believe in the importance of I believe there's something to be said about following a already established either handbook, system, a process, but I believe in taking that and innovating on top of that.
Mm,
I think that we were created, and I'm just for the audience. I'm talking about from this biblical perspective. Each of us has a unique gifting, wiring, and perspective, and so there is a blanketed statement of yeah, just follow the pattern or follow the footsteps or follow what someone has done before. And yes, that is I think it's a good thing to do, right? Depending on, and you gotta, and that can go a whole different direction, but that's something that you got to take into account. What's that system that they're using? What's that process they're using? And you can take it, make it the blueprint, but the question is, there's some part along the way where you have to then make it your own. So I do believe that you can. So
So you know what though? I believe. Hmm, yeah, I totally agree with that. You can, and it's the key to that. You have to make it your own. But the way to do it is, taking the shortcut is just that. It's just there to help you reach that next level a tad bit faster. Kind of learn from what people have already done, and then taking all that information and then making it yours to get to that next level a lot faster. So I totally agree with taking a shortcut. It's just you can't miss the journey and the process though. So you have to be able to learn and take from that so that you can duplicate that again, just in case you lose it, or it just, just in case something happens. So that's my thought process there.
There's this is gonna be my word, I guess, for the podcast. Layers. There's layers to this.
Absolutely.
So there's the shortcut where you're cheating or you're doing something unethical.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're bypassing necessary steps that are in place for a reason. And then there's the quest for efficiency, for not wasting time and resources. So it's kind of two different things, and it can be a real thin line or a blurred line that you can cross back and forth across.
That's right.
And I guess that really leads us to why we chose the Chat GPT thing for a case study. And just without going into too many details to shortcut this, there was a lawyer. It was a case involving an airline, right? A passenger who was apparently injured or supposedly injured on the airline. And in arguing the case and putting forward motions, the lawyer used Chat GPT, right? AI technology used Chat GPT to generate some information and some cases to serve as precedent for his argument. Problem is, somehow now what I know about the AI is it's all about the prompt. What did you ask it and how did you frame the question? That largely shapes what the AI gives you back.
That's
Apparently,
right.
the AI gave this guy several cases, like over a half dozen, from what I understand, and none of the cases actually existed. It cited bogus cases, and this lawyer took that information and presented it in open court. Recipe for disaster, just right off the cut. Now, I don't know anything about the lawyer. I don't know anything about the background, caseload, pressure this person was under, but for whatever reason, they thought that was a good idea. They were going to speed up their legal process by using Chat GPT to get them some evidence or information to present, and it backfired epically. So that's kind of the backdrop where we're coming this. Can you really shortcut the process? We know Chat GPT is the new hotness, right? And we have offline had some nice discussions about this already. Thought we'd bring it to the pod. So let's start with the obvious. This lawyer messed up, right? If this went down like the articles are suggesting it went down, they messed up. Now the question is, where and how did they mess up? Is it simply the fact that they chose to use the AI? Is it the way they implemented that? Like, what's the line? What do you guys think?
Did you want to take? Well, my thought is that he used it effectively. He just didn't fact check it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it did the research.
He used it as designed.
Yes, but you have to go back and double check the work, because that's just going through the world, and it's just scraping content, and it's gathering it all together to give it to you.
What was he doing with the content?
It's just going throughout the world, and it's scraping all this content that you prompted to ask. I mean, to give you, and then you have to now just take that and fact check each piece that it gives you. So that's my thing, is that yes, he did it. He used it to be effective, but he forgot a major part, and that's
it's
to ensure that it was telling you the right stuff. So
fact
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the challenge with using tools and resources such as Chat GPT is we quickly forget that it is a resource and not the source. So anytime, if you've gone to college and you've had to write a paper, typically you are required to cite sources. And within the paper that you use, there is a certain type, or like a barometer for what will be considered a legitimate source, right? So Wikipedia, most of the time, not considered a reliable source for you to use in a research paper, because this is something that can be, of course, edited by anyone. So whether it is an article that has been done by a subject matter expert, if this is a book, if this is some type of content that we can go back and see that there is factual evidence, then of course you can use it. And I think when we go to these tools and resources to try and shortcut out the process of actually fact checking, like Keeman said, that's where we get into the trouble. Number one. Number two, really reminding ourselves that Chat GPT is not the end all be all. It is not the source within which we should be citing all this information, because truth be told, this is still a program, a software, a tool that is learning. And if we wanted to compare it to anything, it's really like a baby. Like it's just getting started. And we don't want to take those things at face value without doing our due diligence.
I think too that post COVID, or the springboard or the side effects of COVID, is this focus of I lack either systems, processes, or I acknowledge that there are things that take too long, and I'm wondering how I can speed up, and so whether that is creating content, whether that is writing, whether that is day-to-day tasks. And I think the increased lens on how to do things quicker and faster, I believe, can be misused. And I think that within the proper context, utilizing Chat GPT is not wrong, but it's what's the approach and the intent for the output of what you want to use it for. And I think the issue is back to the fact checking, back to citing your sources and things of that nature. It becomes dangerous, I believe, when you want a machine or a product to do something for you when you can very well do it yourself. And there and or right, in scenario one of doing it yourself, scenario two, let me have some assistance with it, but again, coupling with that, which is I still need to make this my own. So
One thing I would also say, because Derek touched on it briefly when he asked what question or how did he frame the question within Chat GPT. If you all remember the movie I, Robot, Will Smith's character was working with an artificial intelligence system, and the
yeah.
system would not and could not answer certain questions if he didn't ask them the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
And the system would straight up to him, I can't answer that because you didn't ask the right question. So it, of course, would make Will think and reframe his question and really set up, okay, well, what is it that I need to ask that you would be able to answer with this
Mm-hmm.
riddle that I'm trying to solve?
That's
And
right.
I think people don't use that type of thinking when they're dealing with artificial intelligence. And if we did, I think it would make us think a lot more and really keep artificial intelligence in the box with which it should be, with just being a resource.
So when you said that, you know what that made me think of? It made me think of Arsenio and him always saying the question is the answer. Like having the right question is more important sometimes than having the correct answers. Like Jeopardy before the rest of life, right? It's all about the question. So I believe if used properly, what the AI is helping us to do or should help us to do is ask better questions in the first place.
Wow, that's good.
Right?
Yeah,
Very good.
that's
Yes.
so good.
So if we're not just looking at it as what can I get out of it, what can I get out of it, but what can it help create in me, that goes back to the overall educational process in the first place. And I want to, help us pivot this to the bigger question of can you shortcut steps towards your calling? Something I'm fond of saying when it comes to education is the purpose of school is not to teach you everything you need to know. The purpose of school is to teach you how to learn, right? As a mathematics educator, for decades, I've run into kids. When do I need to know this in real life? Why do I need to know math?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And my answer, for one, let me just put this out. Any parents that are listening, Any students that are listening, it might be 10 years from now, you're catching this on the replay. The teacher who doesn't have a good answer to that question, in my opinion, is doing their student a disservice. If a child asks you, why do I need to know your subject?
Yeah.
And you don't have a good answer to that question, you might want to rethink your career choices. And I have learned to look students in the eye and tell them, you probably don't need it. Now, what? What do you mean? Then why are we doing it? I said, because what you're learning isn't the point. It's who you're becoming through the process.
Woo!
This is shaping your problem-solving ability. This is teaching you how to think. In my class, I was known for many phrases, many catchphrases. One of them was, if the only thing you learn in my class is math, you're not paying attention. And on day one, in my PowerPoint, I would say to the kids, the answer's not what's important. It's the process of what you're going to go through. It's who you're becoming as you learn this process. And something I dropped this past year was, if you go to the gym, and I'll ask you the same question I ask the kids. You go to the gym and you do a bunch of bench presses, right? You're getting it in. AD, I know you're a little bit of a gym rat. You do all these bench presses. Is that helping your legs?
You want the technical answer, or
I mean, I want the layman answer.
For the purpose of this argument, no, it is not.
Right? Indirectly, we know because of, micro muscle. We get all that, right? But indirectly, no, right? It's a bench press. You're thinking arms, chest mainly, right? And the point is, it's a targeted exercise designed to work on something specific. You have other exercises that work on other things. Each of the topics you're learning in school is targeting a part of your brain. It's Karate Kid, right? The lesson ain't the lesson. The lesson ain't the lesson. So if you understand this bigger process of getting to where you're going and walking in your calling, the danger of shortcutting it is you miss steps. You miss opportunities for growth. You miss the lesson that you would have learned had you tried this the regular way and failed. And in working out, right, people lifting weights work to what? To failure. It's not the 10 push-ups you did easily. It's the 11th one you struggled with.
Yeah.
The 11th one you struggled with is where the growth happens. But you got to go through the 10 easy ones first to even get to the 11th one. And so the danger of the shortcutting is that you miss the struggle. And then sometimes in missing the struggle, you miss the very thing that was going to help you grow in the first place.
And I think this can be, of course, taken out of just this context when we talk about ChatGPT. We are in various networks, and we have, figureheads in those networks, and that figurehead has been doing, speaking, coaching, whatever, in their field for, in a very long period of time. And they consistently talk about how people wish that they were in their position, but they don't want to go through the work or the trials and tribulations that that individual went through to get to where they are. And then when they are given advice on what you should do, 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with being on stage at that level. We talk about ET when he has individuals who come in, well, I want to be a speaker like you. Great. Go start talking at some schools. Schools, no, I want to be on stage. Well, yeah, go start talking. Go start, talking at church. Work with this department. Work with this, and you don't realize the value of not only one putting your reps in, but going through that process, because there are things that you're going to learn going from point A to point Z that you have to get along the way. You got to get A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Some instances someone may give you the G through the F situation, but you should really still have to go through that to not only appreciate but really to understand what it's going to take to get to that space and then to stay there too.
So what both of y'all are saying basically then is that by shortcutting the process, that kind of makes you what's the term I want to say? It kind of makes you
deficient.
Try to shortcut life as well too. I mean, because now you're going to try to cut corners on every single thing that you do because this can be done faster. Why I got to do the reps? Can I just take this pill or do this particular thing a couple of days and I ought to be, at my goal weight, right? So it's like you have to go through the process. You have to go through the steps to make yourself better, to ensure that you can withstand the long term too, right?
You may actually end up stunting your growth. You might stunt your growth.
Exactly.
Trying to get ahead.
Yeah, and I think too, to the point of this aspect of trying to get to A to G on the very next day, it reminds me of consultations and questions that people ask me all the time, and they say, well, how do I, how to automate X, right? Or, we'll be inside of a project management tool talking about their setup. Well, I'm looking to automate X. Well, the first question I always ask is, what's been documented? Right? What's been documented? And then so there's always that or whatever the cricket noise is. There's always like
that was a cricket.
It was a dying cricket for the with the bug spray when they're like when they can't make
something like that, right?
Yeah. But that's what it is. It's crickets. Because before you want to automate something, I would like to know what process you have documented. So that's why we have to go from the beginning, and go from like, so what's step 1? And then what's step 2? And so by you don't know, you can't automate before you get to, knowing your process. And sometimes that's going to take a minute. That's why you can't look at, oh, wow, somebody else has like all this stuff and it's just like blah, blah, blah. Well, they have their own process, and then it's been improved upon and it's been built and it's been, so what's yours?
It's been tested.
Oh.
But your problem is they didn't witness any of the tests, right? They weren't there for the trial and error. They showed up at the launch party for the finished product and thought, I want some of that.
Not the launch party for the finished product.
Right.
Where did I get that?
Right. We always want to show up just before the rolling credits and see the end product, but you missed all of the sacrifice. You missed all of the ones that did wrong. You missed all the late nights. And that's why I feel like social media and some influencers fall short, is that they forget to show the struggle. And they forget how they play down the importance of the struggle to the process of growth.
Because the struggle isn't attractive.
No,
never.
It's not attractive. And because it's not attractive, I think so many, just sticking with the social media aspect, so many influencers or, content creators, they want to show a polished, finished product because that makes them more marketable, more likable in a sense. When in all actuality, the person who is fumbling over words, who is adjusting their light, is giving and serving, could be giving and serving quality information. You just so worried about how it's wrapped up. And a lot of times the message can be misinterpreted simply because of the delivery or the packaging that it is presented within. So I think that's one of the reasons why the culture, in a sense, has gotten away from wanting to see you go and get your LLC, get your EIN, like the whole process of struggle, individuals saying no to you when you submitted a proposal, people saying, I like it, but I don't want to pay for it. Like all that whole process is not attractive. But what is attractive is you sitting on your couch with a very expensive camera with a whole set, and then people joining in the conversation. Like that's attractive. Yeah, that's attractive.
With a Fire Motion logo.
Right. That's attractive.
That is very attractive. So what do we? I mean, so how can we effectively use AI or things that make our life better in general and not misuse it, I guess. Don't they take like a whole level of training or some sort?
Great question.
It's a go ahead, AD. Do you want to hop in? Go ahead, hop in. Okay.
It's a great question.
No, I believe in utilizing tools, programs, apps, whatever, in the context of what you're looking to solve. So when I hear about, tools that say I'm all in one, well, it doesn't always mean that you have to use it for everything. And I'm very, I tell a lot of clients or potential people, well, Ashley, what would you use X for? Or I say, I will use this particular tool for this function, for this output. And so I mean, you gotta get an understanding of what you're utilizing and why you're going to utilize it, because it's the outcome piece. You gotta really start drilling in on that. And also too, let me give you a pro tip of what's happening, especially with this AI business. The
Come on,
tools
pro
and the
tip.
apps everybody's building in either Chat GPT inside of their platform and adding on the $5 or $10 cost. You sitting up there with almost about to be with a car note by the end of the year, by how many tools and apps that you're going to use now that we have an AI add-on feature. Okay, so that's why you have to gain an understanding about what it is that you're going to utilize it for. So I'm a big context person. I'm a big what's the outcomes type of person. I'm huge on that.
So I think one of the issues is that the FOMO creeps in, and you feel like somebody's getting a competitive edge if they use a tool and I don't. Right? And so you can get so caught up in the tools and the competition, or you lose sight of some things. So a friend of the podcast, Terrell Muhammad, asked a question, and I want to bring it to you guys and let's address it. He said, how do you uncover and discover the right benchmark towards your goal, right? How do you uncover and discover the right benchmark to your goal? And I think it really starts simply with one of Stephen Covey's 7 habits. You got to begin with the end in mind. Where are you trying to go? Where are you trying to get to? Right? I like to tell the students, before you pick a role model, you need to have a goal model. If you don't know where you're going, who do you know to follow? Like, you don't know who to follow if you don't know you just in line because you see some people walking in that direction. So, let's talk about that a little bit as we move to a close. Uncovering and discovering the right benchmark. And I think there's kind of a couple paths there. Are you talking about a path that nobody's ever been down before, or are you going down a proven trail? I think if there's a proven trail, there's an easier answer to that question, right?
Yeah. So with the proven trail, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I think there's something inside of us that really wants to, just so we can say, well, I did it this way, right? And for something where you are blazing the trail, I agree 100% with what Ashley and what you said, Derek. First, with Ashley, you have to have something documented. Like, you have to be able to gauge your successes, the lessons that you've learned, what is working, what is not working. You have to be able to track that. So that's the easiest way to see if you've gotten closer to your benchmark. And then to Derek's point, if you know where it is you want to go, you should be able to reverse engineer that and see, okay, well, if I want to lose 100 pounds, well, in this many months, I should be able to do this much weight. In this many weeks, I should be able to do this much weight. Like, if that's where you're looking to go, if it is, I want to amass a following of 100,000 people. Okay, well, you got to get to 10,000 before you get to 100,000. So you got to be able to understand where you're going to go, and then as you're going through that journey, as Ashley stated, you got to have processes and documented systems that are going to show you what's working and what's not.
How about this? How about, you want 100,000, but you don't have 100,000 of your skill set. So instead of that person's out there, there's no problem at looking at that. There's no problem with setting your sights on that. But let's look at somebody that has a following of 5,000. Somebody has a following of 1,000. Somebody with a following of 1,000 might actually take your phone call, or at least answer your email, right? Yeah, I heard somebody say this just the other day. Like, if you're a 1, stop trying to get to 10. You ain't even ready for anything 10 has to tell you. If you're a 1, reach out to some 2s. They'll be geeked if somebody thought enough of them to ask. And by the way, your clients are all the zeros. You can't do nothing for a 4, you're a 2. Right? It's amount of scale, but what does everybody focus on? 10. I just want to be the 10. I want to do what the number 1 do. You ain't even got the budget to do what number 1 is doing.
And my thought is to take all that stuff now that you have the goal in mind and the steps it's going to take to do it. You have to be consistent. You have to just sit down and be consistent every day. I mean, doing something towards that goal every single day. It can be a small. It could be, I'm going to make 5 phone calls today. Just make 5 phone calls today. Not trying, I'm going to make 5 sales today. No, just make 5 phone calls today and do it again tomorrow. And eventually you're going to get that, sale or whatever the case may be. So
I think that too, and again, small tangent that we'll have to put a pin in, is that what's not being said that we have to reiterate, especially when we talk about the 1,000 in the 5,000, that's in the 100,000s, when we're talking about in that context, really value what you have. Okay. And again, we go in for an hour on that, but we really,
that's a pretty big pin you just put in there.
It is. It's a big pin, but it's. Let's be truthful. Like, honor what you got, because you have to really think in context and capacity. And again, as you're looking at the scaling and whatnot, you got to think through, if you had 100,000 and 200,000 and all these, would you be able to handle the demand?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Would you truly be able to? And you have to be able to say, and I'll be able to say for my own self, no. You know what I'm saying? And say, all right, and not know that I'm not like, oh, I'm not like, I'm not deserving of that. But it's like, no, because here's the level of where I'm at. Here's what I'm looking to master. And then and then when the time comes, I will be ready. You got to be truthful to yourself on that point. So
that's what a benchmark thing is so huge, because yes, your target, your vision is 100,000, but you got to have benchmarks along the way. And here's why I think some people fall short. You said out loud you want to get 10,000 followers. You never said you want to keep 10,000 followers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need to do enough to attract them, but you also have to make sure you have something that will keep them.
Got to keep them too.
Yeah, you got to keep them. What's your system for that? Again, another big pin.
Because you got to truthfully think out this process. I mean, you got to go from start to finish. Okay, to get to that number, yes. Okay, what all is involved, and how can I maintain it? And then you got to think about the support to all this. I mean, you got to take it piece by piece though, because it can't get overwhelming though too. So start
and if you
small and take it from there.
If you really, go back to the question, can you shortcut your calling? I don't think that should be what your focus should be, right? So because when you are focused on cutting corners or doing things quickly, you miss out on so much, whether it is the learning component, like the lesson you should have learned by doing this longer instead of, you miss out on potential networking, you miss out on potential relationship building, you missed out on so much because you just want to
Building
go from point
resilience.
A. Yeah, all of that. Because you're just so focused on getting to the 100,000 that systematically you haven't learned that, okay, I got 100,000 to Derek's point, but how do I keep these people? Okay, well, I've offered one product and service, but that's for this 100,000 people. The next 100,000 people may want something completely different. They may have a completely different need that I need to fulfill or service. So how can I know if I shortcut this, how is that muscle in my brain going to, work when it comes to, okay, what can we do next? What is it that we can use, or how can we look at this a different way? It's not going to work because you're only going to be focused on, okay, I got them. Now what? And we know so many other social media influencers who reported, yeah, I had 100,000 people, but I was living with my mama. Yeah, I had 200,000 people, but I ain't have $1 in the bank. So what is a profit if you're going to gain all of these followers and not have anything to really show for it?
That's right.
What will
Think
it
about this
profit
too.
you to shortcut your calling?
Think about too, trying to duplicate that too, trying to bring in more people to help you. It's not going to happen because you shortcutted the process. So there's no blueprint for you to give to somebody
And they
else.
may come in with the blueprint and be like, "But you didn't do this. Why didn't you do? You didn't." Oh, because if Ashley gets brought on as a consultant, she's gonna be like, "Well, wait, you don't
Right.
have this
Yeah, she gonna
together."
ask those questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask the questions. That's for sure.
Ashley's gonna have a checklist.
Like, no, it was a wish and a prayer.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So you built this whole thing with duct tape?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You wanted to stand up? Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Well, y'all. This has been really, really good. We are officially in OT. So it is time for us to end this particular live stream. But I do want to take just a few seconds. What are some key takeaways? Yeah, let's start. AD, what do you think?
Yeah. So for me, key takeaways: if you're going to use Chat GPT for anything, make sure that you do your due diligence and fact check what the artificial intelligence is giving you, because you don't want to end up like our dear friend, the lawyer, who was trying a case and is now in hot water because he did not fact check ChatGPT. Do your due diligence. Check for the facts.
I love it. Keeman?
Taking shortcuts. Taking shortcuts just doesn't, it only gives you that temporary success, and it does not lead to that longevity, that sustainable longevity of the things that you're actually trying to do. So just think about that.
Derek, what are your thoughts?
Do not sacrifice accuracy for the sake of speed and ease. Do it the right way. Yes, it might take you a little longer, but it'll probably keep you out of jail.
You say keep you out of jail. I can't even. That is so good. I think the last thing that I would say is understand and know your why. Understand the outcomes and exactly what is it that you are looking to achieve. That's going to help you understand the context of utilizing tools like ChatGPT and others. So that's it, everyone. We thank everyone for joining us today. What's going on, Royletta? Great to see everyone tuning in. Make sure that you like this video, that you send this video to a couple of your friends. Make sure to also comment as well. You may want to revisit this during the week and leave some of your thoughts. But we'll be back, and we look forward to seeing you. This is, again, the NESTT Network. This is our weekly live stream, and we hope to see you again next week. Bye,
Also,
y'all.
don't forget to hit that bell so you get the notification when we on live.
Yeah, hit that. Okay, hit that bell. Ding. Thank you all.
Y'all have a good one.
And we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Appreciate your tea.